They told me not to come to Thanksgiving, said I was too much, too emotional, too intense, too complicated. But while they were passing turkey and pretending to be grateful, my dad called and whispered, "Amanda, they're changing the locks." And in that moment, I stopped being the good daughter and started becoming their worst mistake. My name is Amanda Whitmore, and 3 days before Thanksgiving, my family erased me. Not dramatically, not loudly, just a simple group text from my mother. "Amanda, we think it's best if you sit this one out. We want a peaceful holiday." Peaceful. That word always sounds beautiful until you realize it means you are the problem. I stared at that message for a long time. I read it again and again, like maybe I misunderstood. I hadn't yelled at anyone. I hadn't started an argument. All I did was ask a question. Where did Grandma's trust money go? That's it. $42,000 missing, and suddenly, I'm disruptive. You see, I'm the oldest daughter, the responsible one, the dependable one, the one who stayed in our hometown of Cedar Ridge while my sister Brianna moved to the city to find herself. I helped Dad after his heart surgery. I handled insurance paperwork. I covered 3 mortgage payments when Mom said things were tight. But when I asked about money, I became dangerous. Thanksgiving morning felt wrong, too quiet. No early phone calls. No, "Can you bring the wine?" texts. No last-minute grocery panic. Just silence. I made coffee and tried not to think about it. That's when my phone rang. Dad. He never calls during holidays. Mom hates interruptions when she's hosting. I answered immediately. "Hey, Dad." He didn't say hello. He whispered, "Amanda, they're changing the locks." Everything inside me went still. What? "They called a locksmith this morning. Your mom said since you're not coming, it's a good time." A good time. To lock me out of the house I co-signed on. My name is on that deed. After Dad's surgery, the bank wouldn't refinance without stronger credit. Mine. For 4 years, I've paid nearly half that mortgage, and today, they were pretending I didn't live there. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I asked one question. Did she say why? Dad hesitated. "She said you've been distant, that you might move soon, that it's simpler this way." Simpler. Erase Amanda. Remove the complication. Pretend she was never financially involved. I could almost hear my mother explaining it to the locksmith like it was routine. "Yes, she's moved out. No, she won't be needing a key." I thanked my father, and then I hung up. I didn't drive to the house. Not yet. I opened my laptop. Because here's what my family forgot. I'm not emotional. I'm analytical. I work in forensic accounting. Companies hire me to find missing money, to follow paper trails people think are invisible. For 2 years, I've quietly downloaded statements, saved receipts, archived transactions. Not because I wanted revenge, because something felt wrong. While my family basted turkey, I built a timeline. Grandma's trust had been structured clearly, equal distribution between Mom and her 2 daughters. But withdrawals started appearing 6 months after Grandma passed. Transfers labeled home repairs, emergency medical, family support. Strange thing was, the roof was never replaced. Dad's surgery was covered by insurance, and no one supported me when I paid hospital copays. But Brianna? She opened a boutique that failed within 8 months. She took a wellness retreat in Bali. She bought a brand new Audi. I cross-checked dates, deposits from the trust. Within days, payments to her vendors. The pattern was clean, too clean. At 3:47 p.m., Brianna posted on Instagram. A perfectly staged Thanksgiving table. Gold cutlery, candles, smiling faces. Caption, "Grateful for family and peace." Peace. I zoomed in on the background, the hallway, the new lock visible on the front door. Bold, confident, like I wouldn't notice. At 4:10 p.m., I drove there. I didn't park in the driveway. I parked across the street, watched through the front window, Mom laughing, Brianna pouring wine, Dad quieter than usual, They looked comfortable, like the problem had been solved, like removing me solved everything. I stepped out of the car, walked to the door, and tried my key. It didn't fit. Not jammed, not stuck, replaced. I took a photo, time-stamped, proof. Then I walked back to my car, and instead of knocking, I made a phone call. "Amanda," my attorney answered, surprised. "Happy Thanksgiving." "Not quite," I said calmly. I explained everything. The lock change, the co-signed mortgage, the trust discrepancies. She was quiet for a moment. Then, "If your name is on that deed, they cannot legally exclude you." "Good." "And if trust funds were misused?" "That's breach of fiduciary duty." Her voice sharpened. "Send me everything." So while they cut pumpkin pie, I built a case. I compiled transaction records, screenshots, property documents. I sent 127 pages of evidence before midnight. Then I did one more thing. I transferred my portion of the December mortgage into an escrow hold, legally preserved, not withheld, protected, until ownership was clarified. Monday morning, the storm hit. Mom called first. "What did you do to our mortgage account?" No hello, no warmth. "Our mortgage account." Interesting choice of words. "I secured my financial interest," I replied evenly. "You're being vindictive." "No," I said softly. "I'm being documented." Silence, then anger. "You're tearing this family apart over money." I almost laughed. They changed the locks, but I'm tearing things apart? "I'll let the court decide that," I said, and I hung up. By afternoon, Brianna texted paragraphs. "You're humiliating us. Dad is stressed. You're so cold lately." Cold. That word stung, because I used to be warm. I used to bake pies, wrap gifts, stay up late comforting everyone else. But warmth without respect becomes weakness, and I was done being warm. That evening, Dad came to see me. He looked exhausted. "I didn't know about the trust transfers," he said quietly. I believed him. He avoids conflict like it's contagious, but avoidance is still participation. "They're scared," he admitted. "They should be," I answered. He rubbed his temples. "Your mother thought if you stepped back, things would calm down." "By stepping back, you mean disappearing?" He didn't respond. Instead, he said something that shifted everything. "There's something else about the house." My chest tightened. "What?" He looked at me carefully. "The house wasn't just refinanced. Your mother adjusted the ownership percentage." The air left my lungs. "What does that mean?" "She reduced your share in the paperwork, said you agreed verbally." I felt something inside me fracture. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a clean break. Forgery, misrepresentation, intent. This wasn't panic. This wasn't emotional overspending. This was calculated. That night, I didn't cry. I sat at my desk, opened every document again. And I realized something. They thought I wouldn't push back, because I never had. They thought I valued family too much to fight. But they misunderstood something important. I don't fight recklessly. I fight precisely. And precision is devastating. 3 days later, my attorney called. "There are serious irregularities," she said carefully. "If this proceeds, you could force a full financial audit, potentially a sale of the property." Force a sale? The house is my mother's identity, her status, her control. The irony wasn't lost on me. They changed the locks to push me out, and now I could legally remove them entirely. I didn't want revenge. I wanted honesty. But when someone tries to erase you, to rewrite history in their favor, to quietly steal what's yours, revenge stops being emotional. It becomes structural, systematic, clean. They wanted a peaceful Thanksgiving. What they got was an audit. And I wasn't finished, because the locks were just the beginning, and what I discovered next would make Thanksgiving look like the warm-up. Amanda's voice lowers. They thought I was the dramatic one, but drama is loud. What I'm about to do is silent and permanent. By Friday morning, my mother stopped calling. That's when I knew the attorney's letter had arrived. Certified, signature required. Not emotional, not dramatic, precise. A formal demand for full accounting of Grandma's trust, mortgage ownership clarification, documentation of all property modifications, immediate restoration of access to co-owned property. 48 hours to respond. You'd think they would call to talk, apologize, explain. Instead, Brianna posted another photo, this time from a coffee shop. Caption: sometimes boundaries are necessary, even with family. Boundaries. They loved that word when it benefited them, but when I set one, I was cruel. At 2:16 p.m., my phone buzzed. Dad. Amanda, it's worse than you think. I stepped outside to take the call. What else? I asked quietly. He hesitated. Brianna didn't just use trust money for the boutique. My stomach tightened. She's in debt. Real debt. How much? Over $120,000. I closed my eyes. Credit cards, private lenders, personal loans. She used the house as collateral, he said softly. Silence. What? She convinced your mom to sign something, a secondary line of credit. They said it was temporary. I felt the world tilt slightly. Did I sign anything? No, but your name is still on the original refinance. Which meant, if Brianna defaulted, my credit would burn with theirs. They hadn't just tried to erase me, they had tied me to the explosion. That night, I didn't sleep. I rebuilt the timeline. Grandma passed, January. Trust withdrawals begin, March. Boutique opens, June. Secondary line of credit, September. Locksmith scheduled, Thanksgiving. It wasn't random. It was escalation. They needed me quiet long enough to stabilize the debt. When I started asking questions, they tried to remove me. Saturday morning, the response came. Not from my mother, from her lawyer. That's when I knew it was serious. The email was cold. They claimed I had voluntarily reduced residency. I had agreed verbally to adjusted equity. Trust distributions were family support decisions. Verbal agreements, family support, creative language. I forwarded it to my attorney. Her reply came 10 minutes later. This is good. Good? They've acknowledged the equity change. Without notarized consent, that's indefensible. And then she said something that made my pulse steady. We escalate. Monday morning, a petition was filed. Not emotional, not angry. A formal request for forensic audit of trust accounts. Freeze on secondary line of credit. Temporary injunction preventing property modification. Restoration of co-owner access. Within hours, the bank froze the credit line. Brianna called immediately. For the first time, she sounded scared. You froze my account! No, I corrected calmly. I froze the house. You're ruining my life! No, I said softly. I'm preventing you from ruining mine. Silence, then anger. You've always hated me. That one almost made me laugh. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. She was raised to believe charm replaces responsibility, that someone else would clean up the mess. Usually me. Not anymore. Tuesday evening, Dad showed up again. He looked smaller, more fragile. Your mother's furious, he said. I imagine. She says if this goes public, it'll destroy her reputation. Reputation. There it was. More important than truth. Then she should have thought about that before forging ownership adjustments. He flinched at the word. Forgery. It sounded ugly out loud. Good. Then he told me the final piece. There's a buyer. My blood ran cold. What buyer? Your mother's friend. They were discussing selling quietly, after the holidays. Selling. Without clearing the equity dispute, without disclosing the debt. They weren't just shifting percentages, they were preparing to liquidate. And I would have found out after closing. That's why the locks mattered. They were building a narrative. Amanda moved out. Amanda disengaged. Amanda relinquished. They underestimated two things, my documentation and my patience. Wednesday, emergency hearing. Not a full courtroom, just a judge reviewing preliminary filings. I wore navy, hair pulled back, calm. Across the room, my mother wouldn't look at me. Brianna looked furious. The judge reviewed the equity adjustment paperwork. Where is Ms. Whitmore's notarized consent? Silence from their counsel. Where is documented fiduciary accounting of trust distributions? More silence. The judge adjusted his glasses. Temporary injunction granted. No sale. No further financial movement pending audit. And just like that, their momentum stopped. Outside the courthouse, Brianna snapped. You're enjoying this. I looked at her evenly. No, I'm correcting it. Mom stepped forward. You're humiliating this family. I met her eyes. You tried to erase me. Her jaw tightened. We were protecting ourselves. From what? Accountability? Truth? Me? You should have talked to me, she said sharply. I did, I replied. You changed the locks. That ended the conversation. 2 weeks later, the audit results came back, and it was worse than I imagined. Trust funds misallocated, $61,400. Undisclosed line of credit, $150,000. Improper equity adjustment attempt. Confirmed. The house wasn't just at risk, it was drowning. And because my name was attached, I had legal power. 2 options were presented: force immediate sale and recover my percentage,